and Susan for their kind of extra help today because we are without Karen and Lael. Karen and Jason and Mitch are at the large club conference in Baton Rouge, and Lael's sick, so we're flying alone today. So wish us luck, guys. Thank you to those special people, though. Also, a special shout out. Our district governor, Sydney Gilbert, is here. Where's Sydney? There she is. You guys are going to hear from her in a little bit later on in November, but Sydney's here to listen to our fabulous panel today, so welcome. Thanks for being here. And then another special shout out to our Catholic High Reach Club officers. There in the back, we have Rhett and Jackson and Isaiah. So thank you guys for being here. The Reach Club at Catholic is Rotary in the high schools. So these guys, and thanks to the members that really help them throughout the year and on their meetings and all of that, we're happy to have you guys. And then I just want to also say a quick, for you guys to just keep Joyce Taylor, our fellow Club 99er, in your thoughts and prayers. She had a really bad accident on a horse a week or so ago. She is recovering, but it's going to be a recovery. It's going to be a long recovery process. So I would just like to ask you guys to keep Joyce in your thoughts and prayers. All right, so another big shout out to President-elect Jason Chaco. I don't know if he's watching today, but he did an amazing job filling in for me last week while I was in California for a work conference, and I appreciate everything he did. I know you guys had fun together. All right, so before we get started, I'd like to invite Brad Burleson up to the podium. He's going to lead us in the 5-way test, pledge, and prayer. Kelly Bassett's going to do guest introductions today. Then membership recruitment chair, committee member Shane Carter is going to introduce a new member to us today. And then after that, Club 99er Jason Parker is going to remind us of Aldersgate fish fry news. So I will get Brad to kick us off. Yeah? Oh, no, not Brad, Chad. I got that note last minute, and I'm going to blame Karen because she's not here. Thank you, Chad. Thank you.
So please join me in the 5-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And is it fun? All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you all please bow your heads for a moment. This prayer is particularly focused on addiction as we focus on that today. O blessed God, you minister to all who come to you. Look with compassion upon all who, through addiction, have lost their health and freedom. Restore to them the assurance of your unfailing mercy. Remove from them the fears and illness that beset them. Strengthen them in their work of recovery, and to those who care for them, give patient understanding and persevering love. Amen.
All right, we have several guests today. Some of them have already been introduced, and they're about to be introduced for a second time. So we have Spencer Day is a guest of panelist Chris Robertson. We have 3 guests of Chris Shinnup, and you've already met them. Jackson, Rhett, and Isaiah. Stand up one more time. Catholic High guys are here. Glad you're here. Evelyn Menz is the guest of David Menz. Kay McLeod, Vance Brown, and Ryan Williams are guests of Vanessa Russell. Mackie Pierce is a guest of Aaron Finzer, and Cam Davis is a guest of Neil Erisman. We also have one visiting Rotarian. You've already been, she's been pointed out to you. Sydney Gilbert, our district governor with the Little Rock After Hours Club, is with us today. So thank you all for being here.
And a good afternoon, everyone. We are so pleased today to bring you a new member to Club 99. Would you please welcome with me Brad Gentry? Brad's going to come up. He actually went to school with President Natalie. Brad's sponsor is Jerome Strickland. Brad is the founder of Gentry Professional Services, a company which hires retirees to return as consultants so clients can recover the lost knowledge and experience of key employees. Brad has a Bachelor of Science and Master of Science in Electrical Engineering from the University of Arkansas, as well as an MBA from the University of Maryland. Brad is a certified project management professional and a certified contingent workforce professional. He previously served as a systems engineer and program manager for Northrop Grumman Corporation and has more than 20 years of experience designing and testing intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance systems. He and his wife Jamie have 4 children, and for fun, he enjoys reading nonfiction, flying drones, and with that, we welcome Brad Gentry to Club 99 today.
Good afternoon. Just a quick reminder that this coming Sunday is the Aldersgate Fish Fry. You can buy tickets through the Rotary email. We've got a link to buy tickets. Individual tickets are $20. Family packs are $65 for 4. Buy them for clients, give them out, buy them for family and friends. That's 11:30 to 3:30 at Aldersgate. Great opportunity to see the campus, see the facility and everything they've got going on out there. Also some opportunities to volunteer. So see Wendy Wood, or there's a link on the email as well to sign up for that. So thanks.
All right, thank you guys very much. Thanks, Jason, for that reminder. I hope you guys can make it to the fish fry this year. Okay, so before we jump into today's program, I'd like to have a couple of announcements. So today is World Polio Day, and as you guys know, Rotary International, that is a huge platform for us for eradicating polio across the globe. So today and every day, we celebrate the many successes we have had in ending polio. Remember, you can always donate specifically to Rotary International's polio causes by visiting endpolio.org. Funds raised are used to continue immunizations and surveillance efforts, and all donations are matched 2-for-1 by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is pretty awesome, so it does triple your impact there. And if you choose to donate $1,000 or more to Rotary International, definitely contact us. You can receive a Paul Harris Fellow or recognize somebody with a Paul Harris Fellow. Club 99 or Gary Parrish is our lead on that, and so if you're interested in that program and want to do that, please reach out to Gary or myself and we'll make that happen for you. So also, you're going to hear about our opiate epidemic today with our panel, but as a reminder, our club is partnering with the Little Rock Police Department on Saturday for the Drug Take Back event. So if you're interested in volunteering, go to your link in the newsletter. You can sign up there. But also, if you don't have time to volunteer, just be sure to stop by. Go through those medicine cabinets, guys. Get rid of old, expired medicines, medicines that you haven't used. You know, that is part of our problem. It's not just illegal drugs, it's also prescription drugs that are getting into the hands of people who are abusing them. So we need to get rid of them in the correct way. And the Little Rock PD will be there with the DEA, collecting those in a proper way. So definitely it's just a drive-through. You can hand it off to those of us who are volunteering from Club 99 and get rid of those in a safe way. So thank you for that. All right, so for those guests today, our Club 99 theme is the power of fun. And each week we discuss kind of a tip around having more fun in our lives. Today's program, it's a weighty one, guys, and it's definitely not a fun topic. But I think it's worth spending a few minutes reiterating our focus on the power of fun amidst really tough environments like the ones we face today, especially for our teens and youth. So remember when we talked a few weeks back about the Surgeon General General's recent new advisory on our country's epidemic of loneliness and isolation. Unfortunately, this epidemic is really affecting greater numbers of teens, especially after the pandemic. Loneliness and depression are often the reasons our youth are turning to drugs. The state of our kids' mental health is a huge player in what is happening in this opioid epidemic. So we definitely have epidemic levels of mental health illness in our young people. They're feeling so much anxiety over trying to be perfect on social media and living up to impossible standards that are out there. On top of that, many parents of means, a lot of people in this room, we're constantly stressed out, we're busy, and putting enormous pressure on our kids to get into certain colleges, to be successful. So it's why I want to talk about us as parents and mentors and how we role model life for these youth. We know from Catherine Price's book, The Power of Fun, and lots of other studies, that fun plays a really important role in combating loneliness and depression. Yet we aren't doing a good job of modeling how to have fun for our kids. How can our kids build a life of playfulness, connection, and flow when they've never been taught that those things are important? How are they supposed to appreciate true fun and lose themselves in joy if they have been raised to view life as a competition in which resources and opportunities are scarce and they are constantly ranked and judged? Modern life for Americans, y'all, it's not set up for anyone to have fun. We are used to life being stressful and competitive, and unfortunately that includes our kids and our teens too. So our duty as adults is to work really hard at changing that dynamic, to understand why and how we're lacking fun and make room for fun in our daily lives. And most importantly, we need to model this for our kids who so desperately need to know that life isn't all about filling their time with things that will get them into college. They need to know that fun is not the enemy of successful and productive life. It's actually the opposite. So take some time today, really think about what you are modeling to young people in your life. And if you're struggling with having fun in your own life, pick up this book, y'all. Pick up Catherine Price's The Power of Fun and take one step at a time to learn how you can bring the power of fun into your life. I think we owe that to our kids and teens to help them combat the many, many pressures that life throws them at them these days. So let's see who is having fun this week from Club 99.
Well, my name is Lori, and I am the Executive Director for the American Red Cross serving Greater Arkansas. I am based here out of Little Rock. So what I like to do for fun is I really enjoy board games. Any kind of tabletop board game or party game, that is my sweet spot. I love everything from the classic games like Scrabble and Life and Aggravation to some really complex games. My favorite one right now is called Terraforming Mars, where it's set in the future and you are trying to figure out how to make Mars livable by increasing the water, increasing the air, increasing the temperature, and that takes about 4 hours every time I play it, and I love it. When I was a kid, my family loved playing board games. We had a board game closet, and that was what we did as a family night. I've always enjoyed playing games like that. And then when I got older and started having my own friends around, I would try to have board game nights at my house. Just a few years ago, I got introduced to this whole new world of these new board games that now I've got all these friends online and here in Little Rock who play those kind of board games too. And so it's so much fun. I have about 140 games. I have a shelf in my living room full of all of the board games. I have more games than I can actually play. And actually just this morning, 2 more showed up from Amazon. We probably play just about every day some kind of game. We go to different board game nights when they're available, and we invite friends and family over. So this is my free plug for a new board game cafe that is opening up. It's called Caverns and Forests. They're going to be launching in November. So that is probably the most exciting thing happening right now, is having this board game cafe where I can learn new board games and meet more people who play board games. I will say that I have been playing board games long enough that now I really want to design a game. So because I work for the Red Cross and I work in emergency management, there's a lot of things in emergency management that would actually go really well into a board game. So one of these days when I get a little bit more time on my hands, I have an idea of designing my own board game around emergency management.
I love that, Lori. Okay, I'm totally getting Lori to start a board game night for one of our socials. That's definitely on the list. So I love that. Thank you for sharing, Lori. All right, so now I'd like to introduce our moderator for today's program. You guys know her well. She's Club 99 past president, Sharon Talek Vogelpol. Sharon became involved with Arkansas's opioid crisis about 10 years ago when one of our Rotarians was personally affected by addiction. In response, Sharon worked to create a campaign in a bottle resource kit to send to Rotary clubs across the state to help raise awareness about the effects of addiction on our communities. In 2016, she was appointed to the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program Advisory Committee by Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson. The program is an electronic database of all the controlled prescriptions dispensed at Arkansas pharmacies, mail order pharmacies delivered into Arkansas, and other dispensaries such as veterinary or medical clinic. I can attest this has been a game changer. My sister's a pharmacist and has told me it's made a huge difference in their part of combating this epidemic. So Sharon, thank you so much for all your work on this important issue and for introducing today's panelists and moderating today. Thank you.
I'm good? Okay, well, hello Club 99. It's been a while. It's wonderful to be here with everyone today. Before I start, I do have to admit when Natalie started with her guidance related to not putting too much pressure on her kids, I thought for a second this was a mass intervention for my children to come after me. So thankfully that's not our agenda here today. We have a very important agenda. And as our guests, panelists make it up to the front here, I'll go ahead and start to introduce them so we can spend a maximum amount of time on this very, very important topic. Our panelists today, first we have Kirk Lane, who serves as the director of the Arkansas Opioid Recovery Partnership, an organization formed by the Arkansas Association of Counties and the Arkansas Municipal League to administer opioid abatement funds derived from opioid settlement funding awarded to cities and counties in Arkansas. Before this, he served as the Arkansas State Drug Director from 2017 to 2022. Director Lane also has 33 years of experience in law enforcement, serving with the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office and is the Chief of Police for the city of Benton, Arkansas. Please welcome Chief Lane. Next, we have a familiar face to many of you. Randy Zook is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce and the Associated Industries of Arkansas. Prior to taking the helm of the State Chamber, Randy was the Deputy Director of Administration and Finance for the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. For 34 years, he worked for Atlantic Envelope Company of Atlanta, a $250 million manufacturer of custom printed envelopes and business products, serving as the president and CEO of the company from 1989 to 2004. He is currently serving on the boards of Arkansas Public School Resource Center, the executive board for the Quapaw Area Council for Boy Scouts of America, Economics Arkansas, and McGee Farm and Real Estate Company. He and his wife Diane have 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren. Please welcome Randy Zook. And lastly, we have a special guest, Chris Robertson, who lost his son Warren to the opioid epidemic during Warren's sophomore year in college. Since Warren's tragic death, Chris has been on a mission to educate parents and the community about this horrible epidemic facing our community. Recently, he endowed a fund at Catholic High School for boys to fund the school's first counselor. Already, the school's new counselor is actively meeting with students and helping them with many mental and emotional needs. Please welcome Mr. Robertson. So as we've noted, this is a very pervasive issue in our state, and many people have heard about, and a lot of focus is put on the societal impact, which we'll certainly touch on today. But with this being a business audience, we wanted to make sure that we covered the business aspect of this and how it's impacting businesses in Arkansas. So I'd like to turn to Randy first. What can you share with us, Randy, about what you're seeing across Arkansas and how the opioid epidemic is impacting business?
It's hard to overstate the challenge that this whole thing presents to employers and any manager, any business owner, anybody who's involved with hiring folks. Long time companies that forever have tested rigorously for drugs have sort of resigned themselves to just ignoring results around marijuana in many cases. I'm not suggesting that that's true for everybody, especially anybody involved with transportation sector, but most manufacturers, most retailers just kind of look the other way on marijuana, but are still serious about harder drug detection and usage. Frankly, that's probably one of the primary reasons that our labor force participation rate in Arkansas is about 5 percentage points below the national level. If you do the math, that's about 60,000 people across the state that are just on the sidelines. Many of them are 18 to 59-year-old males who are not working, who are not looking for work, who are not technically unemployed. They're not drawing unemployment, they're not in school, and they're not in prison. They're on the couch, and I don't know what they're doing, but some of it has got to be driven by and a result of drug abuse. So that's a reality. Kirk's going to lay out some of the dreadful statistics about this issue in a few minutes, I'm sure, but we have undertaken an effort through a thing called Together Arkansas with the Department of Human Services. We mailed that little kit. There's a package of it on each table. It's an information kit for employers to try to give them some resources and access to tools, how to deal with an employee who's abusing drugs, or more often the case, how to deal with somebody who's got a family member who's in the middle of all this stuff. What do you do? How do you open that conversation? Lots of employers, companies don't have a sophisticated, fully staffed HR function, and therefore it's just kind of catch or catch can. And this is intended to give them at least access to some more information, some help, where to go. And then the final thing is we're working to try to increase the availability of Narcan kits. If your office has an AED, one of those little automatic defibrillators for heart attacks, you need to go buy a Narcan kit and tape it or stick it next to the AED because it could happen in your office. You could have somebody who's perfectly legitimately using opioids, painkillers as a result of a surgery, and all of a sudden they're in the middle of an attack of some kind, and you're going to save their life if you got one of those little gizmos. It's easy to use. It's cheap. Hope you'll take that step. Anyway, that's kind of what we're up to, and it's a mess for employers, and we're doing everything we can to try to give them the tools and resources to deal more effectively with the problem.
Randy, I understand that there's a sample on the tables, but this is also available at togetherarkansas.com.
Yeah, just go on the website and you can print off what's in the packet if you want more. These are bulletin board kind of things, break room sort of things. Who to call, how to get some help, where to go. You can use the ones that we mail these to all of our members, about 1,400 companies across the state. And we're trying to work through the community chambers now to get more widespread distribution, to get all the way into the business and employment community.
Great, thank you so much. You're talking about families that are impacted by that. Chris, we know that that is something that you've been dealing with personally. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about your story and why you're so passionate about raising awareness of this important issue?
Hello. First of all, it's a horrible thing to be up here for the reason that I'm up here. I mean, it's to lose a son is beyond belief. But the tragedy is caused. I had a lot to do with it from the standpoint of not recognizing what was going on. But it begins with addiction, and you can have an addiction for a lot of different things. But the schools, they promote kids now to be on an Adderall type drug because it calms them down, focuses them, and it works. But it's a powerful amphetamine that people don't realize have side effects that are horrible, which is insomnia and anorexia and anxiety that leads them to other drugs, which would be Xanax or something else that countermands what they're dealing with in their other addiction. But as parents and friends, when kids are developing these addictions, whether it's vaping, Adderall, there's 100 different prescription addictions that lead to a lot of problems that you won't even recognize until they get out in the world and they can't meet their demand, and then they get exposed to the risk of fentanyl that is way beyond a strength that most people don't even have a clue about. But I've given 3,500 Narcan kits to various sororities and fraternities and organizations that I hope will get into the hands of these children. And they are children still. And so if you can make them understand the risk of addiction and how the addictions can occur when we don't even expect it, it's a chance. And that's all it is. It's a chance, because our kids they've got to develop their own personalities and growth. But they're going to be exposed to it. They're going to experiment with it. And I dealt with it in the worst possible way you can deal with it. And but the cost is too great. So with that being said, I hope everybody recognizes, whether you've got a son, daughter, grandson, or granddaughter, or friend, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't discriminate against age. It happens at all levels. And but it is a prescription drug. It's a controlled substance that has the ramifications that go way beyond what it's intended for, and most of it's overprescribed. You just got to be extremely careful. I just had major back surgery, and I asked not to be given the normal dose of fentanyl that they prescribe for when you go home, because I could feel the addiction after 2 doses, and so just be cognizant of it when you are exposed to it in whatever way you are. But the main thing is to, I'm going to speak with Catholic High Thursday, but I'd like to speak with every high school, every young person organization, so that they recognize the risk that they're experiencing with. But as a parent, I hope you never have to go through what I'm going through.
Thank you for that, Chris. You used the example of your recent surgery and the fact that these medications are prescribed by physicians and given out, that you don't necessarily have to take them or accept taking them, that you have other options related to that.
Well, they give this, the drugs they give for, I know people have been addicted because they had a molar taken out and the dentist prescribes it, or they had a sprain, and it's a painkiller, but it's a painkiller that's not like ibuprofen. It's not like, it's something that you think you're safe because a pharmacist or a doctor prescribes it to you, but the addiction can be 2 pills, and it can be 2 days, and then it's done. It just depends on your body's acceptance of the drug, and it's much like tobacco or alcohol or the other addictions that you can develop. But we all avoid and are embarrassed about addictions, and I certainly am. I have my own, but if we recognize that we have to fight them every day and try to improve our lives and our children's lives, it's the kids that I worry about, because they don't have the faculties to recognize it. And but it is the things you have to go through in that process are horrific. And if the kids could understand the process and what it does to them, if you can catch them at an early enough age and try to redirect them or involve them in something that occupies their time, that helps with the anxiety and depression that comes with the COVID killed my son. I mean, it was just too much isolation. And, but we've, it's new things. I'm 70 years old and I have experienced a lot of different things in life, but nothing like what we're facing right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thinking about how people use what they think are safe medications, and it's a gateway to addiction. I know there's a lot of stigma associated with this and this particular issue that makes it a challenge in addressing it head on and getting people to talk about it. Chief, what has your experience been in this segment with stigma and how it impedes your ability to address the issue?
So stigma is the biggest factor that impedes our ability to make change. And then I think second to that is we get caught up in being creatures of habit. Like I always say, putting a square peg through a round hole. When we fall back on those things, and they're not working, and the numbers are showing they're not working, but we tend to go back to those things instead of trying to look at innovative programs that can change the direction of where we're going.
Well, I know a lot of the work that you're doing with the Arkansas Recovery Partnership is focused on giving grants to organizations that are doing things that demonstrably make a difference in the fight against this epidemic. Could you share a few examples for the group?
So our focus has been, the Arkansas Opioid Recovery Partnership is the brainchild of the Arkansas Municipal League and the Arkansas Association of Counties, who were one of three people that represented, or three entities that represented Arkansas in the national opioid litigation. We were successful in Arkansas, which was unique to other states. They gave 1/3 to the cities, 1/3 to the counties, and 1/3 to the state. The cities and the counties came together and formulated the Arkansas Opioid Recovery Partnership and twisted my arm to go to work with them. And coming from the state, we knew the different things that the state was doing and what the state was not doing. And so we started pushing funding into grassroots programs in cities and counties to complement what the state was doing and what they weren't doing to try to make a difference. And that's the direction we're going.
Absolutely. I know one of those that you recently announced is the Hope Movement Coalition that was formed specifically for families like Chris's. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
In Arkansas and even in other states, there's nothing for parents and loved ones who are suffering through this battle or after the fact. Nothing for them to help them build support and hope. We find that a lot of times that our parents and our loved ones are the strongest voice in the room when we're trying to make change. Nobody argues with a parent that has lost somebody. So in legislature or in different places where we need to make change, we invite the parents in to help us with that. And so we invested in the Hope Movement Coalition, one, mainly to help parents and loved ones cope with what they've been going through, and then because the family suffers along with a person that has an addiction or a substance use disorder just as much. So we recognize that, and we wanted to build something for that.
Absolutely. That's a great example. Could you share a couple of other examples of programs that have received grants and the different areas they address?
We have 47 what we call naloxone hero programs that we put out there. We pushed out over 66,000 dosage units of naloxone within 11 months. And so we partner with different organizations that want to help responsibly teach people how to administer naloxone to keep people alive. We've been focusing on smaller treatment centers, a lot of faith-based programs. We've put about $9 million into faith-based treatment programs around the state, looking at the state as a whole, trying to complement where the state already has programs and add that so somebody doesn't have to travel across 2 or 3 counties to get help. If they need help, they need it right then. We need to recognize that.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things, going back to the routine procedures where these drugs are prescribed, prescribing rates is a big piece of the puzzle in terms of impacting the supply that flows into the state. And I know that this is something you and I talked about earlier. with the counties with the highest prescribing rates, which is something that the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program helps to monitor, identifying where there's higher than normal rates of prescriptions. I believe you have a program in the works that is to identify those counties that have the highest rates and try to incentivize them to become more educated and help restrict that supply.
So Arkansas historically has had one of the top 5 opioid prescribing rates in the nation. We're at the lowest point we've been in 16 years, and we're still number 2 in the nation. Our prescribing rate is 71.4% opioid prescriptions for every 100 people. We have 13 counties in our state that are well over 100 opioid prescriptions for every 100 people. That's every man, woman, and child. So we're trying to reduce that by education, working with our Pharmacists Association, actually talking to the prescribers, having that conversation between them. We have seen some really good evidence-based results in that of just realizing where they've been and what they need to do. And so we're aiming at that, and hopefully we can bring, so in January we're going to launch a program called Under 100 to bring those high opioid prescribings down. And then if we're successful, then we'll go to under 90 and we'll just grow with this. The national average is 41.2 opioid prescriptions for every 100 people. And as we reduce, the national average reduces too. So we got a lot of work to do.
Well, certainly the supply is out there, and that's what puts some of these young people, Chris, in the situations where they have access to these medications that are out there. Talk to us a bit more about the education program at Catholic High and the counselor that you've put in place there, and how they'll help educate so they'll know, the students will know when they're out in those environments what to look for.
Well, these kids, they just because you prescribe a drug doesn't mean that's going to be used in the proper way. But I found my son as a sophomore in college and finding out in high school is they need access to be able to go to somebody who can understand what kind of issues they feel or what the drug is doing to them and how to countermand it, how to cope with it. And there wasn't anybody in that particular school system that they had access to. And you got to have access immediately. You can't, I would call and try to get my son an appointment with a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Well, we'll see him in 90 days or we'll see him in 60 days. And it's not their fault. They're so overloaded with need that that's the best that they could do. But a kid at that age has got to have instant counseling. And that's what I think is important in our school systems, in our organization, anything where there's a group of people, is instant access so that they can make a decision that might be the right decision versus I got an easy way out, and that easy way out kills them. And today the exposure level is beyond belief. I mean, girls are getting it in drinks in bars and being overdosed. I mean, there's so many ways this drug can be abused. It's mind-boggling. But the access, to mental health and to understand it is a mental health problem. Anxiety is a mental health problem. And depression is a mental health problem. And that's what leads to trying to find something to solve the problem. But just education and what Kirk's programs are essential to our society. And but Little Rock is, we have our fair share of dealing with it. And there's a lot of access points that need to be closed down in order to get it under better control. But it's a really serious situation.
So it's certainly out there despite the things going on and the progress that we're making. So I want to talk a little bit more about Narcan. Each of you have mentioned it. You mentioned donating to fraternities and sororities. Randy mentioned if you have a defibrillator in your workplace, this is something that you need to add to your kit. I know, Chief, you've been a great leader in making sure our first responder community has access to it, and now through your advocacy, making it available over the counter. Can you share with folks a little bit more about that tool in the toolkit, how it works, and how easy it is to be prepared for an emergency?
So it's extremely simple to use. You can self-train yourself on it. Narcan, or naloxone as it's formerly called, is an opioid antagonist. So it sits on the receptors of the brain, blocking opioids from slowing down your respiratory rate, which causes your death. So what we do is it's in a nasal spray type deal, so it's like Flonase. That's what we provide to people. They have it in several different forms. The most simplest form is the nasal spray formulation that we push out there. It just recently went to over the counter, but in 2002 we passed a law where if a prescriber was prescribing over the amount or a subsequent amount of opioids to a person for a prescription, or recognized that person had a substance use disorder, they were mandated by law to issue a prescription for naloxone with that. In more recent days, as it becomes forward, the FDA came out and said it's safe for over the counter. We've been pushing out a lot through our program. I would say free of charge, but it does cost something because the companies make their money.
$49 at Walgreens. Walk up and walk out with it. $49.
So it's extremely simple. I can tell you from my own experience, I was in an airport, traveling through an airport last holidays, and came up upon a person that had an opioid overdose and had stopped breathing, and saved that person in the airport by just having naloxone with me, because nobody can get through TSA, and the first responders couldn't get through TSA to get to this person. So we saved him right there on the floor of the airport. So it's an amazing tool. It works very fast and efficiently. If you misdiagnose somebody, it gives them a wet nose. So there's no repercussions of using naloxone. We've already passed laws in our state and most of the states around. I was out of state. I was kind of worried if Nevada had a law that protected me, and I found out after they did. But when somebody's not breathing, you got to make that choice. But Arkansas has that immunity statute. So if you're there trying to save somebody for the right reasons, they can't file civil litigation against you. So it protects you in that sense.
So back to stigma, the idea this could become in the future as common as administering CPR, or people feeling like they need to take action. And one of the things that we also spoke about is, from a stigma perspective, is there's a big difference between thinking about somebody as having an overdose versus being poisoned.
Absolutely.
And how someone would feel about coming to the aid of someone who had been poisoned versus someone who experienced an overdose.
I think if you put it in that perspective, it changes stigma a lot of different ways, even from a law enforcement standpoint. For a long time, I was one of those officers as a death investigator here in Pulaski County that went to an overdose death and walked away from it because we had that concept of there was nothing that could be done. That person readily used a drug and caused their own death. And so there was nothing to investigate. We spent more time on suicides and other car accidents, things of that than we spent on an overdose death. So that's changing, and that's part of what we're changing. When we failed to do that, we left out the rights of that person that was poisoned and the rights of families having good answers about what happened to their loved one. So we victimized that whole group. So we're trying to change that whole mindset of where we're going, of working with law enforcement, prosecutors, communities to understand that poison, like those numbers I told you before, Chinese and Mexican drug cartels are not sidewalk sellers and are doing it just for a little bit of money. They're trillion-dollar corporations, like business people like you are. They study the numbers of what they're doing. It's just good business. If somebody has a high prescribing rate to put illicit fentanyl or mix fentanyl into look-alike prescription drugs that are very popular, they study that, and they'll put their wares in there to make the profit that they do. And that's the problem that we're facing today.
Wow.
A year ago, probably this week, one of my grandsons at Ole Miss had a fraternity brother order what he thought was 3 Percocets over some internet supplier, had it FedEx to him for the homecoming weekend. It arrived at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. By 1 o'clock that afternoon, he was dead. It was laced with fentanyl. They were counterfeit Percocets. 20-year-old kid, credit card, 3, I'll have him tomorrow for a big party tomorrow night. Bang, you're dead.
I can put a drug out there that's fentanyl laced and a prescription drug, and you cannot tell the difference. And as Kirk was saying earlier, it's the overdose is a fact. Is how long can you hold your breath? Because that's what's going to happen. I mean, you're going to strangle to death. And you have 2. When normally the kit has 2 doses. If the first dose doesn't work, you got to emphasize take the second dose. I mean, there's no risk in whatsoever in the kit, but it's the way they're delivering the drug is so. I mean, it's criminal. I mean, there's just nothing you can do about it other than educate people to the risk.
Absolutely. Really, really sobering situation out there. And many of you guys, I think at this point, are probably thinking about what you can do as a business leader, as a Rotarian, a parent, or grandparent. So let's finish up by each of you giving some advice or a call to action to our audience today in terms of what you would like for them to leave here and do as good Rotarians and good Arkansans.
I'd like to see us to talk to young people and ask or try to find out what their stage in life is. And if you see that there's something that they've got that's causing them to look for an alternative solution, is to help send them someplace that, or introduce them to someone who can help them, and that they not develop. It's a development of the addiction, whether it be chewing tobacco. They put this stuff in everything now. And if you can catch them early enough and make them recognize that it could kill them, and then if it's, we used to show people films of drunk drivers or whatever. It's that bad, and we just got as a society get our hands around it, or it's going to be worse than what Kirk's expressing.
2 things. One, be prepared for an effort to legalize recreational marijuana in Arkansas on the next ballot. And if you don't think the marijuana for sale today is not the stuff that some of my close friends indulged in illegally back 35 or 40 years ago. This stuff is really heavy duty. And if you don't think it's a gateway drug, rethink that. So be prepared to have an opinion and do whatever you want to decide to do about recreational marijuana in the state. And secondly, go spend $100 and buy 2 Narcans, put one next to your fire extinguisher in your kitchen at home, and put the other one next to your AED at the office.
So I'd like to piggyback on what these 2 gentlemen said. So I would say the first thing in recognizing Club 99 in 2010, we started the drug take-back program here in Arkansas. Club 99 was a big part of that program, a big part of it making it spread across there. It's an educational program to monitor, secure, and dispose of your medication safely, and make you realize and educate yourself in communities about the hazards of where we're at and where we're going. Drug trends are changing every day, and we need to realize that. But also the fact of being able to save somebody's life and give them a second chance or a third chance or a 4th chance or sometimes a 10th chance, recovery does work. And we've seen some amazing steps from people that have found a pathway out of the haunts of addiction and into recovery. And so knowing that and understanding that we can love and support people to do that and achieve that way is amazing. And we have to open our minds up to understanding the big problem that we were tasked to leave it better for our children, and we have a duty to do that. That's what our parents did for us. That's what we need to leave as our legacy and not leave it worse for our children.
Thank you so much. Thank you to each of our panelists. I'd like to open it up now for questions. Amy's going to come around with the mic.
I'm Amy Moe. I'm the Dean of Trinity Cathedral in downtown Little Rock, and I just wanted to thank Kirk publicly. Thanks to the good work of Michael Bynum, who's also a Rotarian, our cathedral has received a grant through the AORP program. We're holding 3 trainings of how to use Narcan, and when you come to our trainings, you get it for free. So I'm here to save you some money. Our next training is November the 5th at 5:30 at the cathedral. If you have any questions about that, you can contact any of our staff directly. And I invite all of you, send your friends, send your young people, bring your kids. We're not afraid to talk about the hard reality of addiction in our community, and we'd love for you to join us.
I have a question for the police chief. Anybody can answer it, though. You know, it's obvious we have an opioid crisis. And it was mentioned you got to control the access points where those prescriptions are written, because those prescriptions may end up in addiction and other drugs coming in, more illegal drugs. And you've got a very robust database of where all these prescriptions are coming from. And I believe in shining a bright light on an area when there's a crisis, shining a bright light on it. Why couldn't you just take that database and publish the top 5% of prescribers so that the public would have the opportunity to see that, and what kind of pressure that might have on those access points to control those prescriptions?
That's a little bit about what we're going to do with that under 100 program. But unfortunately, when they developed the PDMP, or the prescription drug monitoring program, they put caveats in there where that couldn't happen. That's right.
There's a legislative solution.
I wasn't in support of it, but you know, it doesn't always go my way.
Better lawyer up before you pull that.
But there's a reason.
I'm going to fight you.
Well, you know, the other thing is some prescribers have different type clientele. Like some of them may have older patients, some of them may have chronic pain patients, some of them may specialize in stuff. So there's got to be values built into it. It's not you know, a cookie cutter type thing.
So I realize there's no risk to apply to giving someone a dose of Narcan if they are not having an overdose. But what does an overdose look like? How do I tell the difference between that and someone who's having a heart attack, someone who's passed out drunk? I mean, I just don't know.
So I would encourage you to look at our site. You can also look at an app that's available right now called Narcansaw. Actually gives you that information on there. We're the only state in the nation that has an app, and you can download that app for free. We made that available when I worked for the state. And actually with partnerships with Sharon, we developed that app through that program. And it's a great app because you can push on Rescue Now, and it will walk you through the steps of saving somebody. Actually talk you through the steps in English and Spanish. And because we didn't think somebody wanted to read while they're trying to save somebody's life. But the main thing about opioid overdose is it stops their breathing. They're turning blue, their fingernails are turning blue. And when somebody's not breathing, you know, it doesn't hurt to go ahead. Be surprised. We had a police officer that went down in Forest City, Arkansas. Very young guy. He came into contact with somebody. Apparently the guy had a glass pipe and it stabbed him. It transferred what they believed to be either fentanyl or carfentanil to that person. The sergeant that came up on the scene, he wasn't breathing, had the presence of mind, I'm going to go ahead and what we call hit him with Narcan anyway. And he started opening his eyes, and they realized they took him to a Memphis hospital, gave him 8 doses of Narcan to bring him back to life. But who would have thought, you know, where it happens, and we realize that happens from those points on. So I guess the best thing, if they're not breathing, it's worth a shot. And if it's somebody's just having a heart attack, you're not going to hurt them.
I saw my son have a overdose where and it's like having a seizure, and they fall on the floor and they lose control of their breathing. But all the Narcan does is get them to the hospital, because it's not a magic pill that's the end solution. I mean, it buys them time, and you have to go further than that and get them to the doctor so that they can analyze whether or not they've got enough of it to keep them alive.
It's a temporary antidote. It's good for about 30 or 90 minutes. They really should seek treatment from a hospital after that because they could reverse back.
Chris, there are procedures in place with each of the county prosecutors. If a family member is having problem with a son or grandson, the family members can file petitions for involuntary commitment for up to 21 days if it's a drug. It's not a cure-all, but it can get immediate help.
Let me address that because that's a real important point. My son was 21 years old. He died when he was 22. When they get 21, you have no control over them. And I was having hell getting him into a program because if he doesn't want to go to that program, they're not going to be forced to that program just because you want them to go or you try to do whatever you can. But that's a really valid point.
Thank you to everyone for your attention today. Thank you for our panelists for sharing your stories and your expertise. We very, very much appreciate it. This is a very important topic, and each of you has the opportunity to take action in your own way, especially at our drug take back this weekend. So go in and clean out the medicine cabinet and make sure that those things are disposed of properly. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Stay here for 1 sec. I've got a little something for you guys. Chris, Kurt, Randy, and Sharon, thank you guys so much. It's an incredibly important topic. Chris, so sorry about your son, and I really appreciate you being here today with us. So really quick, I've got a couple of, this is just something for your desk. If you look up there, that is a mural that we had commissioned in the River Market, and it's really part of our Power of Fun, reminding people that Little Rock is a special place full of lots of fun and will bring joy to people. So we hope that mural does, and we hope it brightens your day on your desk too. Thank you again for being here. Let's see, I want to give a shout out to David Menz. I did not see you earlier, and I am so happy that you are here. If you guys know, David's been through some health. He has been through some health issues, and I'm just so thankful that you are here. So glad to see you. All right, guys. Next week is a not to be missed program. It's Halloween, and you guys seriously don't miss it. Just mark my words. So we will see you next week. Fun size. Yes. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you.